Hello. Today I'll be covering some of ADEM's regulations pertaining to small quantity generators of hazardous waste. The topics I will cover include hazardous waste determinations, why facilities are classified as small quantity generators, and some of the most common small quantity generator regulations. Hazardous waste determinations. Any facility located in the state of Alabama must perform a hazardous waste determination on all solid waste they generate and maintain any supporting documents used to make these determinations for at least 3 years. This determination must be made at the point of waste generation. The facility may use process knowledge, product knowledge, or analytical results to make the determination. Points of waste generation are determined by the facility based on their individual process. Whenever a material is deemed unusable or exits the original process, the facility must determine what is to happen with that material. If it is determined that the material is a waste and is supposed to be disposed, the facility must, at that point, determine if the waste is hazardous. Small quantity generator classification. If your facility generates greater than 100 kilograms or 220 pounds, but less than 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds of non-acute hazardous waste, and less than 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds of acute hazardous waste during a calendar month, then you're classified as a small quantity generator of hazardous waste. You must maintain supporting documentation for this monthly generation determination at the facility as part of their operating record for at least 3 years. This is an example of how a facility might make a monthly hazardous waste determination. In month X, waste generated at point A equals 200 kilograms and is determined to be hazardous through generator knowledge. The waste generated at point B equals 150 kilograms and is determined to be hazardous through analysis. The waste generated at point C equals 1,000 kilograms and is determined to be non-hazardous through product knowledge. The facility's month X hazardous waste generation is 350 kilograms. Therefore, the facility must notify as a small quantity generator. The methods used to make these determinations must be kept as part of the facility's operating record for a period of 3 years. So you have determined you're a small quantity generator. What's next? I will now go over some of the small quantity generator regulations. For a complete list of regulations that apply to small quantity generators, please refer to ADEM Administrative Code 335-14. Small quantity generator notification. A small quantity generator must not treat, store, dispose of, transport, or offer for transportation hazardous waste without first receiving an EP identification number from the department. An EP identification number may be obtained by submitting ADEM Form 8712 and the appropriate fees to the department. After obtaining an EP identification number, a small quantity generator must submit annual notifications to the department by the 15th day of the specified month for the county in which their facility is located. You may find the 8700-12 submission schedule here. The small quantity generator operating record. Small quantity generators must maintain and provide an operating record consisting of some of the following documents, as well as others that might not be listed, for inspection upon request. Some of the documents include ADEM Form 8712, Notification of Regulated Waste Activity, Hazardous Waste Manifest for at least 3 years, Hazardous Waste Employee Training Records, which should include documentation that the employees have completed the initial hazardous waste training program and a written description of the program. Central Accumulation Area Weekly Inspections. These must include the date of the inspection, time of the inspection, who performed the inspection, any deficiencies found during the inspection, and any actions done to correct the deficiencies. Documentation of the attempts made to familiarize any agency that might respond to an emergency at the facility with the hazards at that facility. Documentation contained in the facility's operating record is determined on a case-by-case basis. This list does not reflect a complete list, so please refer to ADM Administrative Code 335-14 to determine what documents must be included in your facility's operating record. Small quantity generator satellite accumulation. Small quantity generators may accumulate less than or equal to 55 gallons of non-acute hazardous waste and/or less than or equal to 1 quart of liquid acute hazardous waste, or less than or equal to 1 kilogram of solid acute hazardous waste at or near the point of generation and under the control of an operator. The container holding the hazardous waste must be in good condition, compatible with the waste being stored, closed except when adding, removing, or consolidating waste from the container, and marked with the words hazardous waste and an indication of the hazards of the contents of the container. Waste codes may not be used as an indication of a hazard on a satellite accumulation container. This is an illustration of a properly closed 55-gallon drum in satellite accumulation. The bung is closed and tight, the lid is affixed with a tightened ring, and the drum integrity has not been compromised by corrosion or structural damage. These are examples of improperly closed hazardous waste containers in satellite accumulation. Satellite accumulation hazard indications. Waste codes DFP, U, or K are not recognized as an acceptable means of indicating the hazard of the contents on satellite accumulation containers. Acceptable indication labeling includes the hazard placards represented here, or the words flammable, corrosive, reactive, or toxic. These are improperly labeled satellite accumulation containers. Small quantity generator central accumulation or less than 180-day area. Once a satellite accumulation container reaches capacity or the 55-gallon threshold, the container must be dated and moved to a central accumulation area within 72 hours where the hazardous waste may be stored on site for less than 180 days. Containers in the central accumulation area must be in good condition, compatible with the waste being stored, closed except when adding or removing waste from the container, not managed in a manner that may cause them to leak, not stacked more than 2 high for containers greater than or equal to 55 gallons, and have a completed hazardous waste label with all applicable hazardous waste codes and an accumulation start date. These are examples of improper stacking techniques for containers greater than or equal to 55 gallons. Central accumulation area requirements continued. There are some instances where small quantity generators may store their hazardous waste for more than 180 days without obtaining a hazardous waste storage permit. These are accumulating hazardous waste on site less than or equal to 270 days if the hazardous waste must be shipped to a treatment, storage, or disposal facility that is greater than or equal to 200 miles away, receiving a 30-day extension to the accumulation times due to unforeseeable, temporary, or uncontrollable circumstances. The quantity of hazardous waste at a small quantity generator may accumulate on site at one time must never exceed 6,000 kilograms or 13,200 pounds. Small quantity generator central accumulation area requirements continued. The areas must be inspected weekly, noting the date of the inspection, time of the inspection, who performed the inspection, and any deficiencies found during the inspection, and any actions done to correct these deficiencies. And incompatible waste stored in the central accumulation area must be separated with dikes, berms, walls, or other devices. As a rule of thumb, separate acids and bases and keep flammables away from ignition sources and waste in other hazard classes. This is an example of a hazardous waste label that must be present on a container when it is moved into the central accumulation area. All areas of the label must be filled out and complete. Some of the most common small quantity generator violations include not performing waste determinations on all solid waste generated at a facility, not submitting ADM Form 8700-12 annually, hazardous waste containers being open, incorrectly labeled, incompatible with the hazardous waste it is holding or in poor condition, and storage of hazardous waste longer than 180 days. Episodic generation events. An episodic event means an activity or activities either planned or unplanned that does not normally occur during generator operations, resulting in the generation of hazardous waste that exceeds the calendar month quantity limits for the generator's usual category. A small quantity generator may have one episodic generation event per calendar year unless a petition is granted by the department for a second event. Episodic event notification. The small quantity generator must notify the department no later than 30 calendar days prior to initiating a planned episodic event using ADM Form 8700-12. If the event is unplanned, then the small quantity generator must notify the department within 72 hours of the episodic event via phone, email, or fax, and submit ADM Form 8700-12 no later than 30 calendar days following the unplanned event. The notification submitted to the department must include the following: the start and end dates of the episodic event, the reasons for the event, types and estimated quantities of hazardous waste expected to be generated, and a facility contact or emergency coordinator with 24-hour telephone access to discuss the notification submittal or respond to an emergency. Small quantity generator hazardous waste storage tanks. Some of the requirements for a small quantity generator storing hazardous waste in tanks are to maintain 60 centimeters of freeboard in an uncovered tank, equip continuously fed tanks with the means to stop inflow of hazardous waste, inspect daily when present, discharge control equipment, data gathered from monitoring equipment, and the level of the waste in the tank, and inspect at least weekly the construction materials of the tank to detect corrosion of leaking fixtures or seams, and the construction materials of and the area immediately surrounding discharge confinement structures to detect erosion or obvious signs of leakage. Common requirements continued. Tanks must be marked with the words hazardous waste, all applicable waste codes, and an indication of the hazard of the contents. Generators must be able to demonstrate that the tanks are emptied within 180 days of the waste entering the tank. Hazardous waste storage tank less than 180-day demonstrations. A small quantity generator storing hazardous waste in tanks and using a batch process may demonstrate that the tank has been emptied within 180 days through the use of inventory logs, monitoring equipment, or other records. A small quantity generator storing hazardous waste in tanks and using a continuous flow process may demonstrate that the estimated volumes of hazardous waste entering the tank daily exit the tank within 180 days of entering by using the same methods. These inventory logs or records demonstrating compliance with the 180-day threshold must be maintained on site and readily available for inspection. Thank you for listening to the small quantity generator presentation. Fact sheets and other information regarding hazardous waste topics, including the ones discussed in this presentation, may be found at the following website, or you may contact us via telephone at 334-270-5637. Thank you and have a good day.